Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's Mystic Minute is all about empathy. I think to some degree we are all empathic. Some people aren't as highly sensitive, and those beloved people are like buffers to those of us who are highly sensitive. However, with this expansion of consciousness that's been going on and has really come to fruition in recent times, all of us, whether we recognize it or not, are experiencing things on a much more highly sensitive level. So I thought I'd kind of do a little rant about yesterday because it was a typical experience for me as a natural empath, but it was also somewhat gratifying in having some immediate indications of what was going on. So I'm going to explain it so that those of you out there may discover that you identify with this. First thing in the morning, I started feeling all these extra feelings. And I can tell when they're not my feelings, when they seem to come in sideways, when they don't seem to have anything to do with the present moment. I had a lot of nervousness. I had a lot of anxiety. I felt like eating, and I don't tend to eat anxiety. I'm not the kind of eater. So I had this impression of this very high vibration, and I was identifying that as female. It was somebody who's really nervous and somebody who tends to eat their anxiety. I had also at the same time another high level of anxiety that I couldn't really fully recognize or identify with too. And behind that there was also a little bit of craziness. And actually throughout the day I've had some craziness too, and I'm still waiting from yesterday, and I'm still waiting for that to be revealed. And I had to make a phone call in the midst of all this. And in retrospect, it probably should have just waited to make the phone call. And it wasn't too bad. I just had to leave a message. But afterwards, the gremlins in my head were like, oh my God, I'm the worst person on the planet. And that actually is some things that were going on later in the day when I started to have startle reflexes. So startle reflexes, like in an infant, infants will have startle reflexes to things. So mind you, in the midst of all this, I'm having a very productive day. I'm writing this proposal, this invitation for this program that I am doing. So that's another way that I know that it's not me and these aren't my feelings, but it's more I'm picking up on these feelings, and they can feed into your storyline. So the first immediate response or answer to what was going on in my space was early in the afternoon, because I got 4 emails in a row from a person I know I'm having a meeting with this weekend, and they were having a lot of anxiety over preparing the material for the meeting. And I was like, oh, okay, that's, and it's not somebody I have a regular interaction with, but I don't normally have that kind of feeling absorbed. The next one happened about 4 hours later. I was in the middle of cooking dinner and I started getting texts from my son in Spain. And he is in the midst of transferring some money from the US to his Spanish bank. He's getting his master's in economics in Spain. So he had been spending the whole day monitoring the exchange rate with the euro, because there's really a precise time to transfer money or for the amount that he's transferring. And it could easily be a plus or minus of over $100 depending on when he transferred it. It just reminds me of like playing stock options or some crazy thing like that. So these are 2 examples of my sensing things going on, and one person is 9 hours away time zone wise, and the other person is just a couple hours away. but you're feeling these feelings coming in. And the other thing that has not yet been validated, but based on the negative thinking in my head and the startle reflexes, is I suspect that there's stuff going on back east. Just a 3-hour time difference, but going on back east indicates a whole other faction. And so what this feels like is, I have described the feeling like an empath, or being an empath is feeling like you live in an apartment building with too thin walls. This also sort of feels like I am picking up on conversations and I'm not listening to words, but I'm picking up on emotional conversations that are happening 3,000, 6,000 miles away. And some of them are directly communicated to me, which is why I pick them up. And sometimes some of them are communicated about me. That's why I'm picking them up. So the point about this is that everybody is experiencing this in some way or another. And you might not be experiencing it as acutely as I'm feeling it. But notice for yourself, if you are feeling something that is really dramatic, for example, if it's really dramatic or it's really overwhelmingly intense, it could possibly not be your personal energy that you're experiencing. Yes, you could be triggered by something and experiencing sort of a post-traumatic stress, and that's when you get a memory from the past that is emotionally laden, and you're viewing the world through there, so you're temporarily out of present time. And that's something, that's a different thing. That's something that's sort of unique to your picture gallery. I'm talking about that you're in your little picture gallery, in your reality, and you're suddenly getting other music coming in, you're getting other images coming in. And we don't have the language, we don't have the acknowledgement, and most people don't have the training to realize what is going on. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with emotion and it doesn't make sense, it probably isn't your feelings. Here's a couple of clues too. If it's really heavy, it's really griefy, if you feel like crying, it's male energy. Now, men don't normally feel bad. I mean, if you just look at a bunch of guys sitting around watching sports, oh, that's male energy. They're happy as pigs in mud there, because it's a heavier vibration. And so men can carry around other men's energy, and it doesn't knock them off their equilibrium necessarily, but it does, regardless of whether you're male or female, it feels heavier in your space. On the other hand, if you're feeling something really high vibration, really high, it sort of nails down the chalkboard kind of high vibration, that's a female vibration coming in. Female energy can feel really guilty. And I was describing the experience I was feeling this morning. I said it was female because I felt it was light. It wasn't making me feel guilty. It wasn't distracting in that really kind of irritating way I was describing. But I was definitely feeling their anxiety. And the other energy that had come in on it in the afternoon was actually male. But my son in Spain has a fairly high or very light vibration. But he was experiencing anxiety. So that was so both of those additional notes were playing at the same time. But you can feel females in your space, and that's what it's like. It's a higher vibration. This is why it's like the typical Jewish mother making you feel guilty. That is definitely feeling the an effect of female creative energy, and that's a whole other mystic minute. But just imagine how the world is influenced, because you'll also experience group or collective energy as well. So, for instance, there's a collective energy of religion. Pick a religion, any specific, but the collective energy of that there's something wrong with you, that there's, you're sinful because. You can take a collective energy of conservatism too. It's like that's definitely wrong. You are wrong for loving the person that you love, or you're wrong for um, um, believing in a woman's right to choose, or political energy. So those are morphic fields that also project emotionalism. So a good rule of thumb is if it feels dramatic, don't react dramatically, because it's not real. And that is different from, responding in an emergency. You're about to cross the street, the the person's dog on a leash next to you is about to dart out into traffic. Yes, grab that. Grab the leash. Keep the dog from running into traffic. That's not an emotional response. That's a response to something that is, legitimately an emergency. But emotionally, pretty much anything can survive. Anything can go by with a nice several deep breaths. If it's really strong, let it wait several hours. I recommend waiting 24 hours if something is really intense, emotionally dramatic, because 24 hours from now, the dust will settle. You don't have to react or carry that energy forward. And you can pretty much figure out, oh, God, that's that family of crazy alcoholics. Don't have to respond. So just imagine what the world would be like if we all were self-contained in terms of our our vibrations of emotion. Doesn't mean that you can't share loving somebody, but all that extra stuff. If we kept our music in our own cars, wouldn't that be great? So some things to think about. Play with this idea. You can play with keeping the music in your own car. Play with turning the volume down. If you're turning the volume down on your energetic speakers, if you're getting too much emotional energy from other places. Play with this week. And if you want to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com. Subscribe to these on my YouTube channel, or sign up below to get these in your inbox. I have a weekly radio show you can listen to on demand. That's also on joan-newcomb.com. And check out my website for the new things that I'm offering, the teachings. I also have meetups around the Seattle, Tacoma, and Olympia area. I have new recordings coming out for sale, and I have a new program that you can find out about by going to joan-newcomb.com. And stay tuned. In a few days, you'll get another Mystic Minute. My father dying and going back for the funeral, I started having these post-traumatic stress indications.
I don't know what that means. If you like, I can search the web for. I started post-traumatic stress in the kitchen.